for me, DSR made a lot of sense because, like I was lacking a lot of the technical skills. And I think that's what DSR really brought me. Basically just going through all those different classes. I like the fact that, as I mentioned, that it didn't start from like completely zero, but like we could get started really quickly in very interesting topics. And that was really good. And for me, like, the idea of learning for about 2 months, different skills and different methods and different aspects of, data science and machine learning, and getting to the point of being able to apply everything, or at least a lot of it, for the portfolio project. That was really nice. Having this starting from like, finding the project, working with teammates or by yourself, building the project timeline, the plan for the project, and getting to it from kind of from scratch. I think that was maybe the most rewarding, was really to get to that point of,
Right. Yeah, I remember it took us a long time to get to your project. It was really hard work, and I think it's getting more challenging every year because you guys build super cool stuff, and then it's like, oh, taken,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of like going back and thinking, oh, like that's already been done, what I wanted to do. So it's having finding the original solution, like an original idea, and finding that, and then really working on it. I think that was definitely difficult. It was a lot of hard work, and especially like, I think, at least for me, I was never really used of building something from the ground up. Everything was maybe the context was already there. Maybe the architecture was already there, and it was more like filling in some stuff. Like, whereas for the project, it was more starting really from zero.
Right. This is a very good point. So you came from a kind of not technical background in product and so on, and you got in and could do all the technical stuff just from the classes that you got, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I had a little bit of background in math, for sure, like from back in the day, so that helped for some of the classes. But in general, like programmation-wise, obviously, I did prepare the Python course a little bit, like in a couple of weeks before the class, as it's mentioned in DSR, and then like that was the good base to be able to like follow the classes, and like the difficulty ramps up also in the classes. So it does start with, like, okay, getting into it with Python and NumPy and Pandas. And then once you get to like the deep learning classes, like it really becomes super interesting and challenging at the same time.
Right. So this is actually very good news overall, right? So that means that if you have no technical background to speak of, and you prepare yourself seriously in like a couple of weeks before DSR, you can get the skills to get through DSR. And then once you go through it, you can build a project that we will see soon. That is like, holy shit, people can do this now in 3 months. This is really good news, right?
Yeah. I think that's definitely super. It's very possible. And if I look at the whole class, everyone went through that, and we went through it together. I think you definitely need an affinity for data to get go, right? Like, but if you have that and you have the will, and you put in the work, I mean, like, yeah, you can do it. And it's super rewarding to be able to go from, not knowing a lot, or knowing maybe in broad brushes, like what's happening in that machine learning and deep learning world, to being able to create your own deep learning project that is built from the ground up.
Yeah. So I hear from people that is very exhilarating to have a project. So you never know that you're going to make it, and then when you see yourself on demo day, that this is like a big change. Can you talk more about this?
Yeah, I think for me there was a couple of moments during the project where it was like, oh, like I'm doing it. Like at first it was definitely like, there's so much that goes on, and sometimes it's hard to like, should I work on that aspect or that aspect, and it's a little bit like, I can put that. I would use a metaphor of like, you're working with like clay, and at first for like a while it doesn't look like anything, and then there's this one point you're like, oh, like now it's looking like something I'm building. And it's like, I had this point, I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like I can now, in my case, film myself and detect the yoga pose I was doing, and when you see that in practice, And yeah, okay, you've trained the models and you've seen the accuracy and the loss and everything, so you have an idea of it. But like, it's not, for me, it was not until I actually saw it work, like on the video I was fitting it in on my webcam, that I was like, oh wow, it's actually working. So and then it's like, it's great, and then you're like proud of it. And it's, I think that there's a couple of things that are really great. It's like, first of all, you're proud of yourself and of your team doing it, but you also, it's also like really great to see the teachers that were with you for like 3 months being proud of you too, right? Yeah. And being happy for you. And I think I had some good feedback, and that's great. That's really, that's amazing to see that, they, it's their work that's put in practice. So.
Yeah. And the cool thing, so the 25 teachers, that's part of your network now, right? So if you need somebody who is at Zalando, somebody, or yes, whatever other company, big company, right? And those guys, okay, so funny story. One teacher that is now working for a company where the 2 top guys in that company are DSR alumni. So it's like even the teachers are hired by alumni at DSR. Oh. And so this idea of having multiple teachers that each one is an expert on one topic is operationally very complex. But I think it's a very good value proposition that you cannot just ignore. That there is something to it. We probably will have to simplify to scale because it's just so complex to have so many people. But I think the value to you guys is definitely justified.
I think that, it's great to have that, as you said, to have all these different teachers that then are part of the network, and they all bring something different to the table. They all have like different specialties around certain aspect of deep learning or reinforcement learning, or like trees, or like, communication, which is a great class. That's amazing. Now, it's true that having that many can be also challenging, and sometimes it lacks some continuity. So we might have a teacher for one day, but that person could probably teach 2 or 3 other classes, and maybe it would be good to have this kind of continuity in some of the classes. But otherwise, like overall, it's great to see, like, to talk to that many different people. And the main point is that they all are working in industry. And I think that's also key, because not only are they able to teach you properly how things work and etc., but they also bring a lot of industry knowledge, and like how it's done in practice, which is also very useful.
Yeah, that's kind of wisdom. Like, yes, we tried this, like Spark, for example, for streaming, and it didn't work, and we moved to whatever else, for example, Flink, and they tell you why they did it. So this is very hard to get information otherwise, unless you have an insider in every one company that is using that. Yeah. Right. Okay. So the feeling of having a completed project. So I can tell you from the point of view of an interviewer, right? So if you see somebody who has built something real, it makes such a big difference, because still to this day, there are people in the market applying for every job that have no experience, but also no passion, nothing tangible that they can show you that they really built something, right? Mm-hmm. So for me as an interviewer, if somebody shows up in the door with a portfolio project that looks original and solving a real problem, that is like head and shoulders above anybody else. Mm-hmm. And you probably haven't experienced this because you are not in the market yet, but
yeah, I think it's a very good point. And I think that, in the past when I was interviewing people, I mean, it was definitely a huge plus when I would see that. I think, like, there's an analogy with like designers. You don't really hire a designer, there's not a strong portfolio behind, right? Even if it's someone who has been training recently to be a designer, whether that's UX designer or graphic designer, like, if they don't have like industry experience but have an amazing portfolio of the different projects they worked on, that's a huge plus. And I feel like in data science, it's also something similar, where if you come in and you've done online classes, which some of them are pretty good for sure, but there's nothing really tangible, as you said, to show that can be an issue. Whereas with DSR, it's very interesting to be able to be like, hey, this is what I've done. And also the great thing is that, the project ideas don't come from DSR or the teachers themselves in general, right? They come from us, either something we're passionate about or something we've heard about and everything. So it's also very, it's been made in a very independent way.
Yeah. So the work on getting the idea fine-tuned, it's becoming harder and harder, because this is what I experienced. It used to be 3 weeks, the deadline to pick up an idea. Nowadays, nobody gets their idea ready by the 3 weeks deadline.
Yep.
And because I've seen so many projects, I now have kind of a gut feeling for what is doable in 3 weeks, in 4 weeks, in 5 months, in 3 months, whatever. And just having teachers and mentors and somebody who can tell you, oh, don't do that, you're not going to be done in time, or if you do that, you're going to find this problem specifically, and we know how to solve it because 2 people had it before. That, I guess, that's the reason why people get out of the door with a working project. Because if you stay at home and try to do a project unaided, it's freaking easy to just step on a landmine.
Yep. I think the other point too is to try to go for a project that has several stages in it, so that you might not go to the ultimate goal that you had, but you can still, you have like steps that you can take and show things, and you're like, okay, like maybe I'm not going to do the 5 stages, maybe I'll do 4, 3, and that's already very impressive. And you're not left, it's not like completely binary, like either it's done or not done. Like, I mean, like the project I worked on, you could work with a team of like 10 people for a year on it, probably, and get to like obviously a way better point than I was at. But also, like, even by myself in a few weeks, I got to a point where it was great to present, and there was I learned a lot from it, and it was very interesting, I think, for people to watch it.